Supernatural Season 13, Episode 7, War of the Worlds. Now, this episode, aside from being the surprise actual new episode that literally premiered on Thanksgiving, was a great episode. I was really happy with this episode. Not only do we get to see more of the alternate dimension, unfortunately we don't actually see Mary, so that kind of sucked, but we do get to see Lucifer actually come back to the regular reality. We get to see Oscar Chow come back as the alternate version of Kevin Tran, who is pretty funny. Like, I like that version of Kevin where he's like saying stuff. Sometimes he was talking so fast I couldn't even tell what he was saying, and it was kind of like, yeah, they kind of effed with his head a little bit. They kind of effed him up a little. You could tell, but I thought that was awesome. I believe he was holding one of the angel tablets, so I was like, oh, there's a lot of kind of little references in that. So I was like, well, that's really cool. Apparently, this other version of Michael is actually insanely strong. And I did not see that coming. I didn't think that it would be that relevant that Lucifer ended up in a fight, with Michael. And Lucifer lost. He lost pretty hardcore. He gets his throat cut and he loses some of his grace. So he's not as strong as he used to be. And when he ends up coming back to the normal reality, things kind of suck for him. He can't just, snap people out of existence. He can kind of play it up a little, which he does when he runs into Kaz. But he can't really do anything, much of anything. I don't think he can fly anymore, because when they take his grace, he kind of does like that, like his wings won't work. So I don't think he can fly. I don't think he can really do much of anything. Maybe he can like move a couple of things here and there, but that's about it. He's not just, he can't do his little snapping thing and people just burst into smoke. So very excited for this version of Lucifer and how in the world that's supposed to play out. Asmodeus comes along, he tracks Lucifer down, and I figured, in some way, shape, or form, Asmodeus would basically do what he did in this episode, but I didn't think it would be because he knew Lucifer didn't have his powers. Because, of course, if Lucifer did, he would have been his lapdog again. Like, Lucifer would have just turned around and be like, okay, well, I see your lackeys here. Boom, they're gone. Now it's just you and me. But Asmodeus knew that Lucifer didn't have his powers like he should have, which I found very interesting because no one else could really pick up on that. But Asmodeus could. So I was like, alright, well, he since, casting Lucifer flying backwards, he ends up capturing both of them to use as cards for the future, so that was pretty awesome. We also find out that apparently he can like mimic people's voices when he does it with Cass at the end. But that was great. Like everything they did with Lucifer I thought was really cool. Also kind of funny to see a weaker version of Lucifer, but he still tries to, play it tough and do all the insults and everything. So that I thought was pretty funny as well. But that was great. I was like, okay, this is a really big deal as far as the storyline. I thought they were going to keep them separate for a bit longer, but it's like, nope, Lucifer comes back, and we find out that this alternate version of Michael is seriously looking into getting to another dimension. He, like, even when they talk about it, he's like, yeah, we've been looking into that for a long time. It's like, oh, that's not really news to them, at least, alternate dimensions. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. Maybe we'll see some of those tempter demons come back, because I was like, you don't introduce something, like, you don't introduce a brand new type of creature, and then it doesn't show up in the next season. So I'm sure, eventually that's going to work. We'll have the alternate version of Kevin, making another portal where more than one person can get through. We'll see this alternate version of Michael. We'll see some Tempter Demons somehow find their way through as well, I'm sure. But I'm definitely looking forward to how that's going to play out. Like I said, we don't really get to see Mary at all in this episode. So, there's still that part of the story and, whatever's going on with her. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting more out of that. The other half of this episode, like this whole episode honestly was just a bunch of stuff I wasn't expecting. Not only does Lucifer end up coming back to this reality with less power so he actually can't get beat up, but we find out that Ketch is actually alive. He had worked out a deal with Rowena way, way back when, and it was to basically have his body enchanted so that when he died once, his body would come back to life, which we got to see, and I was like, oh, it was, what happened with Rowena when her neck was snapped. And so they throw it in there, of course, where, like, oh, you were looking for Rowena, and he's like, yeah, once the enchantment is kind of used up, it needs to be recharged. It's like, well, Rowena's dead. And he's like, is she? And it's like, well, crap, now she might be alive, because they, you throw in a little line like that, and it's like, we might get to see Rowena come back, which, personally, I would love, because she's awesome. But that was really crazy, because I was just like, okay, this is just, this dude. I was like, okay, twins. Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, maybe it's a twin. Maybe it's even a clone. I would not have been surprised if the British Men of Letters were like utilizing cloning technology, but it, something went wrong or whatever. And man, they go through this whole process of it being the brother, and I was like, some of the stuff he's saying, it like when they had him tied up, and he was saying like maybe my brother would show remorse for the things that he did to you and stuff like that. And I was like, if this is him, it's him after he finally realized how insane he was, because of course he was killed. But it's like this could be his brother just saying, my brother was like this and flawed, but I still knew him, or this could actually be Ketch, and he realizes, man, I was an insane douchebag. So it was hard to tell, and it was going through the episode, I'm just like, I don't know, and I was like, I want to go with the twin thing because that just makes the most sense, but I wasn't thinking. And of course, people have come back to life a million times, so it was just like, it's totally possible. It could have been any number of reasons. Someone else could have brought him back to life because they knew how powerful he was, and it could have just been to go up against Sam and Dean. It was like, okay, great fighter in his own right, but he also has a bit of a mental attachment to Sam and Dean, and we can use that against them. So there are like a million ways it could have actually been Ketch, but it ended up being that it was him from this deal he made with Rowena a long time ago, and it was just like, wow, he's actually alive. Rowena may or may not be alive. Lucifer is now back, and he's much weaker. He's also been captured by Asmodeus. Cass has also been captured by Asmodeus. Jack can't be found by anyone. Like, he's just apparently off the radar. Like, you can't track his immense level of power unless he wants people to find him. So he's in the wind right now. And it was just a crazy episode all around, but I absolutely loved it. And it's just it's weird how amazing this episode is, and so few people are going to see it. That, I'm sure very few people watched it the day it premiered because it was on Thanksgiving, which is insane. I feel like that had to have been some sort of crazy error. This whole week, I was like, oh, they keep showing promos for this Thursday, or like all the title stuff will say this Thursday. And I'm like, all this stuff should be saying next Thursday. Somebody did the copy and paste job, and they failed. I was like, nope, it actually came on Thanksgiving. That's insane, but I loved it. I got to watch it today, so it was a great episode. And I cannot wait to see where they go with this. Of course, we have Cass and Lucifer being captured means that we're back down to just Sam and Dean. I mean, Jack left, and I was already upset about that. I thought we'd get like a quartet, and then Cass takes off in this episode, and then he ends up, dealing with Lucifer, and then they end up, getting captured. So now it's just down to our duo of Sam and Dean again. And eventually they're going to realize something's off because they won't be able to get in touch with Cass, and maybe Jack will come back. Maybe we'll get to see that. The next episode seems like it's going to. At least, the promo makes it seem like it's kind of just a Monster of the Week deal where they team up with some other hunters slash, B&E people, some people pulling off a heist. And then we get to see, I'm sure there's going to be a side story. That kind of has to be. That just won't be the whole episode. So I'm hoping we get some cool stuff from the side story in next week's episode. But this is definitely an awesome one. Very great surprise for it to be the holiday episode, literally on the holiday episode. So it was definitely super awesome. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it, and mostly I want to know how you guys feel about Lucifer returning and not being insanely powerful. We kind of had this before where they had the other actor playing Lucifer, and I was like, okay, I like that version of Lucifer where he's kind of just going out doing his thing, just really, like, he was really just playing it up until he eventually, did the whole president thing, and he actually had a plan finally set in motion. I like that version of Lucifer. I just thought it was interesting because he was just kind of going around. There was no set plan. It was just him kind of being chaotic. And it was like, I like that. I found it interesting. I know some people didn't like it as much, but I thought it was cool. And now we have this version of Lucifer that's weaker. And he's worried. Of course, whenever something does come up, we've seen him worried before where it's like, oh, this might actually kill me. And now he has another issue to deal with as far as Michael. So I thought that was fairly interesting, but man, it was just nuts. It was just a crazy episode. But I would love to know how you guys are feeling about this new version of Lucifer with him being much weaker, now being captured by Asmodeus, who, like this whole thing when he came into the bar too was like, oh, Lois Bulb and all this stuff, and just basically saying how useless he was. And now Asmodeus is in control. Is talking about how hell is kind of just humming along. It's like I can use you against your son. I can use you against the Winchesters. Everything's pretty good. Eventually we'll get Jack. The angels are freaking out because they feel like they're going extinct, which I thought was actually a pretty cool moment where it's like no one's made angels since the dawn of creation. We lost a bunch of people, and if we get Jack, he could probably make more. Which they of course don't realize he could kind of wake them up. Maybe. I mean, it was because he had that connection to Cass that he was able to wake him up, so I don't know how that would apply. But we still had the Empty. We had that weird creature that morphed into Cass, and you introduce something, it's going to come back into play. So we got quite a few things going now, and Ketch is alive and working for Asmodeus at the end. So it's like, Okay, that's very interesting. And I figured that he was working for demons when he was like, I work for clientele, I do specific things for certain people. I'm like, that sounds like he works for demons to me. And of course he does. He ends up working for Asmodeus at the end. Shaves it all off, of course, because it's like, yep, here he is back to, full douchebag mode. Um, well, who knows? Yeah, we'll see how that plays out too. Like, there's just a bunch of craziness that went on in this episode. So I absolutely loved it. Like I said, I want to know what you guys think about the newer, weaker Lucifer, and of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.